Hello friends, Jai Shri Ram. Today we are going to talk about nuclear proliferation, that means the spread of nuclear technology amongst various nations in the world. And this story is extremely interesting because none of these countries wanted to share their nuclear technology with any other country. No matter how close their ties were, they never wanted to spread it amongst even their closest allies. And so it is very interesting to know how each one of them acquired the nuclear weapons. Currently, there are these 9 countries in the world who have nuclear weapons, and the story of each one of them will be discussed in detail in today's video. USA was the very first nation which developed nuclear weapons. Why? Because it was the time of World War II. There was Axis powers and Allied powers. So Axis powers, the main thing was Germany. And Germany had already discovered nuclear fission in 1939 itself. That means almost at the starting of the World War II. And so the Allied powers felt very compelled to counter Germany. And before Germany could make bomb, they wanted make their own bomb. And that is why Britain, US and Canada came together. Britain had a lot of mind. That means it had all the scientists. Nuclear research was mainly done by Britain. Britain was very ahead of its time with respect to nuclear research. Canada had uranium deposits, so it had all the resources, and US had none of the two, but it had a lot of funds because US was the only country on whose soil the war was not being fought. And besides, US was manufacturing a lot and selling all these things, consumer goods as well as military equipment, to the Europe. And Europe was anyways rich, so European countries were buying so much from the US that US became a superpower after World War II. So US had the funds. So US gave funds. Britain had brains and Canada had resources. Finally, in 1945, Manhattan Project yielded into an atom bomb, and that atom bomb was almost immediately in the same year it was used against Japan by the US, and that led to the end of World War II. Now, after this, did the US share that IP, that is intellectual property, with Canada and UK? Well, it didn't do it. The logic given was, for Canada, they said, oh, you just gave us the resources, so what? I buy petroleum from some other country. That doesn't mean they are going to control how I'm using it. Okay, so you're out of the window. I'm not giving you anything. About UK, he said, US said that, UK, okay, you had your scientists, you had your research, everything's okay. But consider the example of a company in which many employees do work. And suppose they create something, so that whatever is created, that IP still belongs to the company. It does not belong to those employees, right? So you were just an employee for us. So we are not giving the IP to you. In this way, US in a way betrayed both its biggest allies, and they were not in a situation to counter US because they were already, Canada was not all that rich at that time, and UK was also war torn, and so it was already in debt of the US, and that's why the UK also didn't say much. And the UK was even losing its colonies, so it was a very bad time for the UK. Then comes Russia. So Russia also felt betrayed because Russia fought alongside the US, UK, and France and China. So all of them were together as allies. But still, when US and UK came together to build the atom bomb, they did not involve Russia. They did not involve Canada also, and even France also. So all these 3 countries felt betrayed. And another reason for tussle between US and USSR was their model of economics. So US was a capitalist economy, just like UK, France also. But this USSR was socialist, and the competition was that, whether capitalism is better or socialism is better. So after World War II ended, another war started, which is called as a Cold War, because they did not fight with weapons, but they fought for their own ideology against the other person's ideology. So that's why also USSR was against the US after World War II. And so they, in a competition, they tried to develop their nuclear weapon. Now, where did they get the technology about nuclear weapons? So most of the German research was under the control of Russia, because USSR killed, or not killed, he did suicide, but actually USSR defeated Adolf Hitler, that is Germany. And so most of the German research fell into the hands of Russia, and that was used to make nuclear weapons. So this was an entirely different trajectory of research, and finally you got to the same result, that is nuclear fission, and that's why the nuclear bomb was created. So US and USSR, they used different paths, but they achieved at the same goal, that is nuclear wars, nuclear weapons. Britain already had a lot of research done. So Britain also tried, and it also could make the bomb by 1952. France developed it in 1960. Now, why did France require nuclear weapons? France needed it because France has always believed in maintaining a strategic autonomy from the US as well as NATO. And you have autonomy only when you are militarily powerful. Also, France has a history that France was one of the very first countries, major countries that Germany occupied under Adolf Hitler. So when Germany invaded Poland and all, it was news and everything, but still Poland was not a very powerful country at that time. But France was a powerful country. It was a colonial power, and then invading France, and that too so easily. So France had that thing in their mind, and that's why France then started thinking that had we had nukes, no one would dare touch our territory, and that's why France developed a nuclear ambition, which they fulfilled in 1960. China, what is China's story? So China also fought alongside the US and the USSR and the UK and France as allied power against Germany, Japan and Italy, which is who formed the Axis power. So China felt that when you had to develop an atom bomb, you involved US, UK and Canada alone, and you did not involve USSR or China. And then China also started feeling that, oh, why do you do that? Just because we are not Anglo-Saxon. Anglo-Saxon means white Christian Protestant countries. These are called as Anglo-Saxons, usually deriving their heritage or ethnicity from UK. Those are called as Anglo-Saxons. So China had that feeling in their mind that, is it because we are the Eastern civilization, or is it because we are not Anglo-Saxons? Is it because we are not capitalists like you and we are socialist or communist? Is that the reason why you don't involve us into your things and you keep the technology away from us? And if that is how the world is going to be, then let us also develop nuclear weapons. Another reason that was there is, now China was not all that cozy with USSR also at that time, because USSR at the time of World War II was ruled by Stalin. But after Stalin's demise came Khrushchev. And this Khrushchev guy was nothing more than a stooge of the West. He did not believe so much into socialism or Marxism. And China by that time was socialist communist country, and China was ruled by Mao Zedong. Mao Zedong was very much in favor of Lenin, Stalin, Karl Marx. So he was willing to follow them. But the person in Russia or the person in USSR himself was not very fond of these ideologies, and that's why he considered Khrushchev to be a stooge of the West. And so he wanted to protect, means China wanted to protect, or Mao Zedong wanted to protect communism or socialism in a way. And no communist power in the world had a nuclear weapon at that time, because USSR, as per Mao Zedong, was not so communist or not so socialist after Khrushchev came to power. Okay, so that's why, just to save communism, just to save socialism, China developed their own nuclear weapon. in 1964. And 10 years from that, India also developed its nuclear weapon. One important thing that I want to stress upon is in 1962, India and China had a war, and 2 years after that, China developed nukes. Okay, and 10 years from that, we also developed nukes because China had nukes now. Okay, now in between China and India developing their nukes, came the phase of 1966-69, in which Israel developed their nukes. So Israel got its independence after World War II, because Germany uh, committed a lot of atrocities upon Jews in Germany, and those Jews had to be settled down somewhere. And so Jewish people had a very long standing demand of a proper Jewish state. And they got that demand fulfilled after World War II got completed. And Jewish people helped a lot in countering Germany. They helped the Allies a lot. So Allies had to give them back something. And Allied powers say that, see, we'll carve out a map in the Middle East, and that land will belong to the Jews. And that is why that is how Israel came into existence. Now, Israel, when it came into existence, who made Israel? Allied powers made, right? So Israel was always indebted in a way with the Allied powers. But more important than that, these Allied powers also used Israel to do all the dirty work in the Middle East, because US did not have their stronghold in the Middle East, and they wanted to, cultivate some states over there, which will be working in accordance with capitalism, in accordance with the US. And that's why Israel was a necessity for America. And for Israel also, America was a necessity, because Israel was at war with all the Arab nations around it, and they just hated Israel just because they were Jews, and they just wanted to kill all the Jews on the planet. And that is the fanatic radical Islamist ideology that these Arab nations around it had. And that is why Israel wanted US's help. Okay, and that's how they became best friends. Now, it is very, very understandable that a small country like Israel, surrounded with so many Arab countries, they are hostile to it. So Israel would be willing to have nuclear weapons. And who helped Israel during that? Well, France helped, and US allowed France to help. US did not poke their nose there, because France was also capitalist, US was also capitalist, Israel was also capitalist. All three were democratic countries. So they were on the Western Bloc, and the Eastern Bloc was USSR, socialist, communist countries. Okay, so bloc wise, it fell in the US bloc, and that's why all of them helped each other. But who did the real work? It was not the US. US only turned a blind eye towards it. US did not hold Israel accountable to stop the weapons development. But the real help was done by France. France had good connection with Israel for 2-3 reasons. First reason is France also has a lot of Jewish population. So they have ethnic ties, and French people love Jews. That is one reason. But more than that, another reason was the experience they had against Egypt. Because once it happened that, Egypt has this Sinai Peninsula, right? And the rest of Egypt. So in between them, Suez Canal was constructed. It was done by the West, okay? And so it's expected that the Suez Canal should always stay open for everybody, so that the goods can be transported without a big round trip across the African continent. So the Western people put money into it. They were expecting that you take some tariffs from us, but you keep the way open. And Egypt, being a radical Islamist country, said that, see, how can Jewish ships be allowed to pass through it? How can Israel be allowed to pass through it? So they blockaded Israeli ships from passing through the Suez Canal. And that's when Israel had to fight against Egypt. And at that time, US did not very openly come in support of Israel. UK did not come in support, but France supported, and that's what I'm talking about. France has always tried to have a spine. Okay, they have self-respect, and they have a very independent foreign policy. They have strategic autonomy. They are always autonomous from the US as well as from the NATO. So no matter what NATO said or no matter what US said, France was the only power which came to the rescue of the Jewish people, the state of Israel, and that's why their ties deepened furthermore. And then France even established Dimona nuclear reactor, which was a civilian use nuclear reactor which would generate electricity from nuclear power in Israel. So this was done using French technology, and then gradually probably French must have sold the nuclear technology to the Jewish people, or probably the Jewish people figured it out on their own, because they are very, very intelligent. Einstein, by the way, was a Jew. Jewish population is considered to be one of the most intelligent population in the world. So they must have figured it out on their own. Or another thing about Jews is that they are extremely rich. Jews used to be the bankers in Europe. So Jews used to be very, very rich even early on, and they spend their money very wisely. So they are rich as well as they have good financial planning as well as they are intelligent. So that's why it makes them a very good race. And that's why a tiny country like Israel is so powerful today. So Jewish people could have probably purchased it from the French, or they must have figured it out because they had the brains to do that. Okay, now US was engaged in the Cold War, so US turned a blind eye towards what was happening. And then comes India. India developed nuclear weapons in 1974. We are also like Israel because we are surrounded by a lot of radical Islamist countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh, and even Afghanistan should be considered as a radical Islamist country. Iran should also be considered to be so. But in India, usually people consider Afghanistan as our friend. Now, this is because usually the relation between our country and our immediate neighbors is usually bad. And same is the case with that immediate neighbor and its immediate neighbor. So neighbor's neighbor is usually your friend. That's the whole thing. And that's why India says that, you don't like, Afghanistan also doesn't like Pakistan. We also don't like Pakistan because there's a Durand line conflict between Afghanistan and Pakistan. So we consider them as our friends. Same is the case with Iran. We consider them to be our friends because we don't share a border, and because they both of us share a border with Pakistan. Both of them have some problem. Both of us have some problem with Pakistan. That's why we became friends. But in reality, all of these are radical Islamist countries. Afghanistan, Iran, Pakistan, Bangladesh, all of these are radical Islamist countries, and we are surrounded by radical Islam. That means we are surrounded by enemies. And so we needed nuclear weapons very badly. Besides, China had developed nuclear weapons, so we had to do it. So we started our research, and within 10 years, we could develop nuclear weapons. Now, some people say that USSR helped us doing this. Well, just like the Israelis, we are also extremely intelligent people. If we only remove reservations, we are actually a very intelligent race. But unfortunately, due to all this, vote bank politics, we trample this talent under our feet. But otherwise, we are really intelligent species or intelligent race. So we must have figured it out on our own, or probably we bought it from USSR. Of course, USSR did not sell it openly, but USSR must have sold it covertly to us. And we are a rich country. We have always been okay rich only, and now we are becoming very rich. Thank God for that. But even at that time, we were not destitute. We were not absolutely poor. Okay, so we did afford to purchase that technology even at that time. Now, how did Pakistan derive its nukes? So Pakistan got it through three things: theft, black marketing, and assistance from China. So there was a nuclear scientist of Pakistani origin, Abdul Qadir Khan. He is popularly known as AQ Khan, or the man behind the nuclear research of Pakistan. So I don't remember what Pakistanis call him, but they hold him in great esteem. But in reality, what he was just a thief. He was a nuclear scientist in Europe, working for Urenco company, which was a British, German, Dutch company. When I say Dutch, I mean the Netherlands. Yeah, you have to add the before Netherlands. So the Netherlands, the people from the Netherlands are called as Dutch people. So Netherlands, Germany, and UK, means the UK actually, these three countries together had uh, a company established called as Urenco, and its nuclear research facility or nuclear enrichment facility was there in the Netherlands. Okay, and this A.Q. Khan guy, the thief, he actually was working there as a nuclear scientist, and that facility was enriching the uranium. So in nuclear weapons, enriched uranium has to be used. So it has to be purified, means its concentration of uranium has to increase. If you have a truckload of soil, then you have to enrich it, and finally you get only maybe 5 gram of uranium out of it. Not even 5 gram, it's maybe a speck of uranium. So that is called as uranium enrichment, removing all the impurities and just getting only uranium. That is called as enriched uranium. And for nuclear weapons, you need highly enriched uranium, HEU. So for development of HEU, you need this kind of a facility where there will be a big centrifuges. Centrifuges means you rotate something in a test tube. Suppose if you are rotating something, then the particles will be arranged in such a way that heaviest particles will be towards the farthest end of rotation, and the lightest ones will be nearest to the axis of rotation. So that is called as a centrifuge. So to build those centrifuge, you need the blueprints and how the Anglo-Saxons built it. This A.Q. Khan guy stole those blueprints from these Anglo-Saxons, and that's how a Muslim country got nuclear technology, and that was Pakistan. Now this A.Q. Khan was not a very patriot, as Pakistanis wish to believe. No, he was not at all a patriot. He was a thief. He was a black marketeer, because in 1970s he stole those blueprints, and then he sold those blueprints of centrifuges in the black market. He sold it to many people, including Gaddafi, who was the dictator of Libya, then Iran and Syria. And that's the reason why Iran means the Western powers are still willing to stop Iran from developing nuclear weapons. All this started due to Pakistan. And due to this one guy, A.Q. Khan. Even Pakistan themselves would not have done that. A government wouldn't have done that. But this guy, who was a thief, who was a black marketeer, he black marketed it to all these countries. And he must be a radical Islamist also, because all that black marketing he did to the radical Islamist countries. All these are radical Islamist countries. Today, these are all terrorist nations. Radical Islam. And then finally, he sold them, or probably gave it to his own country, which is Pakistan. Pakistan started their research well after these people already had their hands on that those centrifuge blueprints. Okay, so Pakistan got that latter, and these buggers got it before Pakistan, because he was a black marketeer. He was not a patriot anyways. So he was not an ISI agent. He was not a patriot kind of a thing. No, not at all. He was just a thief and a black marketeer. And then even then Pakistanis could not develop the nuclear weapon, because they knew how to enrich uranium, but they did not know how to make it into a weapon. So to build a weapon, to make a weapon out of it, they needed some support, and they finally got the support from China. And that's when in 1998 finally they could develop nuclear weapons. So nuclear weapons were developed by Pakistan only because of two people. One is A.Q. Khan, the thief and the black marketeer, and second reason is China. China told them how to convert this HEU into a nuclear weapon. Okay, and since then the side effect of that is that the entire balance of this region has shifted after that, because India, before 1998, India would give a stern reply to Pakistan if they dare enter our territory. But after 1998, we never chased them back into their territory. We said, okay, we'll protect our territory, that too very decently. We will let our people die, but we won't upset the Pakistanis. That was our policy at that time, and by Congress as well as BJP, this was their policy. Even Atal Bihari Vajpayee from BJP was also of the same policy. And of course, all the small little people who came before Atal Bihari Vajpayee from Congress, I mean, they were Deve Gowda and this kind of people. These were really not so influential and not so good visionary leaders also. Very, very bad people. After Rajiv Gandhi died, after that, all the bad people came into politics. Until Rajiv Gandhi, it was still okay. Or even Rajiv Gandhi was not a very good guy, but still, he was still okay. I mean, तो शोभत होता कमीत कमी प्राईम मिनिस्टर. त्यानंतर असे असे लोक आले प्राईम मिनिस्टर म्हणून की बापरे. देन फायनली द गुड पर्सन हू केम वॉज Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Before that, everybody, including VP Singh and everybody, these are not worthy people to be the prime ministers, but unfortunately our country had to face them as prime ministers. Now, after that, India never gave a stern reply back to Pakistan. But then in 2014, Modi ji came to power, and after that only India started to give a proper response to Pakistan. So when there was, when there was a terrorist attack in India, we did airstrike. We did surgical strike first. So when there was Uri, we did, surgical strike. Surgical strike was done in Pak-occupied Kashmir. And then when they did Pathankot attack, we did Balakot attack. For Balakot, we had to go into actual proper Pakistani territory. This was not Pak-occupied Kashmir also. So this is the territory on which we never laid our claims on. That territory, we entered it. We gave a nice reply to Pakistan. We came back. So this kind of विटेचं उत्तर दगडाने देणं जे आहे हे आपण मोदीजी आल्यानंतरच शिकलो. खरं तर तोपर्यंत आपली विदेश नीती अतिशय खराब होती पाकिस्तानच्या कन्सर्नमध्ये. And that was because Pakistan became a nuclear power. So that was a side effect of nuclearization of an Islamic country like Pakistan. And till date, Pakistan is the only Islamic country having nuclear weapons. North Korea, why did it develop its nuclear weapons? Because again, it's a communist country, it has dictatorship, and Kim Jong-un, who is the dictator, he feels threatened by the West, that CIA might assassinate him or something like that. So if he gets assassinated, he has nukes pointed in a few directions, and he'll say, okay, as soon as I get assassinated, all of you will blow away. So that's why it's his security, it's for his own security of his people and his country. So I can understand why North Korea is having nukes, and it has only 20 nukes, and they have never increased them beyond 20. So it is completely understandable why Israel and North Korea have nukes. Other countries may try to reduce their nuclear stockpile, but these two countries, they must be having nukes. They should be having nukes because it is very imperative for them to have it. Otherwise, they'll not survive. Okay. And again, there is an angle to this, is who gave them these nukes. So either it is Russia or China, because both of them are neighbors as well as both of them are communist, socialist countries. So they might have given it to North Korea. No one knows. Some people even say that Pakistan must have illegally sold it, because this A.Q. Khan was a black marketeer. He was selling it to anyone who could give money to him. So probably A.Q. Khan did it. God knows. But then if A.Q. Khan did it in 70s, then why did it take until 2006 to develop the nuclear weapons? So I also feel that it is probably China, because China wanted to create a menace for the US. And this is exactly what Kim Jong-un does. It only keeps threatening the West, in general US. And it keeps Japan, Taiwan, and South Korea under check just by being nuclear. And he's a person who cannot be trusted, and someone with a nuclear button. So it's just a threat that China wanted to put in place for the West. Okay, because China cannot behave like that. It's part of the permanent member of UN Security Council, and China usually cannot do that. But then just like US does all the dirty work through Israel, China does all the dirty work through North Korea. Okay, and besides, it also allows China to escape the focus of the West. While the West is focused only on North Korea, China can become the manufacturing hub of the world. It can dump its cheap products, cheap but good quality products. So cheap means economical, I mean. So it's good products, economical products at a very low rate, at a very, very low price. It can dump it into the West, and the Western manufacturing gets sabotage due to this. So China can do all this, and still the West does not have time to focus on China because they are too occupied with countries like North Korea. That's also the reason why North Korea is empowered by China. Now, these are the countries which almost developed nukes. So you will see Argentina, Brazil. I'll show you over here. So Argentina, Brazil, Sweden, Romania, Algeria, Libya, Iraq, Iran, Egypt, Syria, Taiwan, and Japan. All of them were very close to developing nuclear weapons. Probably Japan was very close to doing it during the World War II. Because it was working very closely with the Nazis, and Nazis were really, really intelligent, and they had a lot of resources as well, and they wanted to put on all those resources for world domination. So probably the Japanese and the Germans were very close to developing nuclear weapon at that time. So yes, Japan was very close, but then after losing the World War II, even their constitution was written under the supervision of America. So now many people think that Japan does not have so much of sovereignty. It does whatever the US tells it to do. So in that case, probably under international pressure or under US pressure, you can say, they sacrificed their nuclear ambition. And same is the case with Taiwan. Probably US doesn't want Taiwan to develop. Taiwan is very good with semiconductors, so both these countries, Japan as well as Taiwan, are very good technologically. So both of them can very well develop nuclear weapons. And Japan, by the way, even has nuclear reactors for civilian purpose electricity generation use. But it can anytime develop nuclear weapons, but it does not because there is US pressure. And same is the case with Taiwan, I guess. Now, coming to all these Muslim countries, they are kept in check by Israel. And that is why Israel is extremely important, not just for the West, but for the entire world. So that's why the US keeps funding Israel so much. Because all this dirty work of keeping these Muslim countries under check and stopping them from developing nuclear weapons, this is done by Israel. Iraq, Syria, and Iran had received nuclear tech from A.Q. Khan from Pakistan, and then Israel bombed their nuclear facilities so that they did not develop nuclear weapons. By the way, a fun fact is that even for Pakistan also, Israel told us that, we can bomb Pakistan and they are developing nuclear weapons. But at that time, I guess, Morarji Desai was our prime minister. He was a right-winger. He was on the BJP side, you can say. BJP was not BJP at that time. It was Jana Sangha. But yeah, you get the idea, right? He was a Sanghi, you can call him Sanghi. So, and he was a good person. He was a capitalist. He was a very good person. He was a good-hearted person. He stopped the control of USSR in our politics. So he kicked USSR people out from our government and ensured our sovereignty. So don't get me wrong, he's a very good guy. I love him for what he did to the USSR. Very good. He ensured our strategic autonomy, our sovereignty. He has ensured it. Very good guy. But he also, maybe accidentally or out of foolishness, pardon my language, but he said it maybe on a radio that हमें पता है पाकिस्तान क्या करने वाला है. And as soon as that happened, Pakistanis knew that he got the knowledge from somewhere. So all the raw agents which were there in Pakistan, they were hunted down, killed. And at that time, I guess, Israel also gave us an offer that we can bomb the nuclear facility in Pakistan. But very foolishly, India denied it. India said, no, it's their personal matter and we don't want US intervention. See, till the time you did not want USSR's intervention within your country, it's acceptable. But this was not within your country. This was in your neighbor's country, and they were developing nukes which were targeting you. So you should have taken the help of the US at that time, or taken the help of USSR, Israel, but we did not do it. So it was very foolish on our end. But the guy was good. I'm not saying the guy was bad. The guy was good, but this is one thing he didn't do right. Then what is NPT? NPT is Non-Proliferation Treaty. So by 1968, there were only 5 countries in the world having nuclear weapons: US, UK, France, USSR, and China. So then all these 5 countries came together. They said, see, all of you developed it. Okay, fine. Now it's okay, but don't let this spread beyond this little small group, And we will also do one thing. We'll form the permanent members in the UN Security Council, and you'll all be very important. You'll all have veto power. The world will run as per your wish. But please, for heaven's sake, do not let this technology get into the hands of any other country. And that's why so that was a treaty which was created in 68, and in 1971 China was added to the UN Security Council. Until then, China was out of it. Only 4 countries were there. The Allied powers who won, those were there, but China was kept out of it. Why? Well, I'll say that was pure racism, nothing else. China was an Eastern power. It was not an Anglo-Saxon country. That means Protestant Christian white country. So that's why it was kept out. To be honest, that is the only reason. And also, China was not as colonial as these other colonial powers were. And US is also a colonial power. If you don't understand, let me tell you, US has a lot of say in the internal working of a lot of other countries. US maintains 800 military bases across the world. This is nothing but colonialism. Instead of having a direct control over the country, US has influence on that country. Okay, and this is nothing but colonialism. Some people call it as neo-colonialism. I would just call it colonialism in a different way. Okay, so all these colonial powers stuck together, and all of these were Protestant Christian white countries, and that's why they kept China away. But when China developed, but when China was becoming more and more important, and they wanted to take China away from USSR, then some lollipop had to be given to China, and that's why very reluctantly they added China to the UN Security Council as a permanent member. Okay, otherwise these Anglo-Saxon countries had no intention of adding China also. And these Anglo-Saxons hate Russia also, because Russia is an Orthodox Christian country, and Orthodox Christians usually don't spread their religion by converting other people. But these Protestants, they spread their religion by converting other people. So all these Anglo-Saxons are Protestant Christians. So they don't like even Russia, because although they are Christians, they are Orthodox Christian. Just by that, they don't like it. And besides, they belong to a different race, which is called as a Slav race. Although they look white, they are Slavish. And all these people are usually Caucasians. So Caucasians means basically they came from Caucasus, or, okay, for simplicity, I'll tell you, all these are like Ukrainians, or you can call them as British. So overall, ethnically, all these are like British only. So all the white Caucasian people, they are called as Anglo-Saxons, especially those under the influence of British, or now under the influence of the US. So they don't like Russia as well. So how can they like China? And that's why China was kept out of UN Security Council for a very long time as a permanent member. And then finally in 68, it was decided that all these 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council will be allowed to maintain their nukes, but we will try and not give this technology to anyone else. But in spite of this, in 1969, Israel developed nuclear weapons. After NPT came into existence, just 1 year later, Israel developed it. And in 74, India developed it. Israel signed NPT, India did not sign NPT. Then in 60s and 80s, 70s and 80s, as you know, South Africa also secretly developed nukes. But later in 1991, they signed NPT and they said, see, we are dismantling the nukes. We'll come clean in front of the world. We'll accept that we had nukes. We developed it covertly. But now, we are dismantling it. So we are the good people now. So that's what South Africa did. So these three countries developed nukes after NPT came into existence. And till now, what is the current status? So there are 195 countries in the world, out of which 191 are the signatories of NPT, means they have signed NPT, Non-Proliferation Treaty. Only 4 countries of the world have not signed it. One of them is India, another is Pakistan, third is North Korea, and then South Sudan. Only these 4 countries of the world have not signed NPT yet. And then there are many other treaties also which are just like NPT but in various parts of the world. For example, Antarctic Treaty says that Antarctica is a land which belongs to humanity. No country owns it, and so no country should be testing nuclear weapons over there because it would disturb the ecology of the earth, and so it should not be done. Antarctica is to be protected, and Antarctica should only be used for research which will help the humanity. Okay, so no nuclear activity on Antarctica unless you are doing it for civilian use. Okay, so that treaty was signed. So Antarctica cannot be nuclearized. Then treaty of something, Telactate something. So it prevents South America from developing nuclear weapons. So all the countries in South America, except French Guiana, because it is technically the French territory and France is already a nuclear state. So except that one little country, every other country in South America have signed this South America treaty of Telactate or something. So this treaty says that we are not going to develop nuclear weapons in South America. Similarly, South Pacific has a treaty. Then for Southeast Asia, there is Treaty of Bangkok. For African continent, there is a treaty, Pelindaba Treaty. And for Central Asia also, there is a treaty. So that is what all these treaties are. They work just like NPT, and they prevent other countries from getting nuclear weapons. And that's why till now, only 9 countries in the world have nuclear weapons. So I hope this was interesting for you, and do let me know if you have any doubts in the comment section. Until next time, this is Amit signing off. Jai Shri Ram. Thank you so much for seeing the video till the end. It does mean a lot to me. Could you also please see the video description? It has index, link to the study material, and also if I've shown any products in this video, then the purchase links to those products. The comment section is open for your suggestions and also for your doubts. I always answer to the first 100 comments on every single video. If you want to support my work, here's my QR code, or my UPI ID is amit.shirasao@UPI. Until next time, this is Amit signing off. Jai Shri Ram.